Hello, everyone, and welcome to the February 25th, 2026 edition of the Higher Education Tableau User Group. We are thrilled that you could join us today. We've got a fabulous agenda ready for you, starting with our welcome and announcements, followed by our Meet a Community member with Chris Williams, who is a Tableau ambassador and TUG leader. Then we're going to hear from Baron Wolf and Andrea Christelle from the University of Kentucky, who are also part of the REACH Analytics Summit. They're going to talk to you more about that conference. And then we'll wrap it up with building analytics products in complex domains. Becker Baroche is joining us from the University of Texas at Austin to tell us more about that. And then we'll have our typical wrap up and chat as long as there's time. So does anyone want to come off mute, share any announcements, job postings, opportunities for people that might be of interest to this group? Feel free to do that now.
I've got one. Since you mentioned the chat, we had a little bit of a discussion in the Higher Ed Tableau Slack last week before, about the WCAG compliance, or the accessibility compliance rules that are coming into place at the end of April. So we will have a breakout room so folks can chat about how they're approaching that, I guess, reaching compliance. So please join us there if you're interested.
I know I'm speaking later, but I'll not to hog the mic too much. But we're hiring for a few positions at D2I, not on my team, but on the platform's team. So senior data engineer, lead data engineer, principal data engineer, and data architect. And very soon, we're also going to be hiring for a DevOps engineer with primary focus on Tableau server administration. So keep your eyes peeled for that one if that's something you're looking for. And you'll hear more about the D2I team later, so maybe I could entice you to join us.
That's a lot of openings. And I see Sarah posted another job position in the chat. Is there anybody else that wants to share? Well, I will go ahead and share one that I got in an email today on behalf of Nathan Rush at Brown University. He asked us to share that they are hiring, their School of Professional Studies is hiring for an assistant director of systems and data reporting. And the primary responsibility is going to be building and updating Tableau dashboards. So if that's something you're interested in, if you'd like to get in touch with Nathan to discuss it more, reach out to me. I can give you his contact information. That's also on our open positions Slack channel that Roshni posted in the chat just a few minutes ago.
I have one real quick too, Jenny. Sorry. So College of Marin in California is looking for a Tableau Cloud independent contractor. So I'll put the details in the chat there. And then if anybody's interested, you can reach out directly to them.
Awesome. A lot of open positions these days. I'm kind of surprised to hear it. Well, if there are no other announcements, then I guess we'll move into our next big announcement, which is about the Tableau conference, of course. It's coming up from May 5th to 7th in San Diego again. Fabulous. And if you're interested, there is an education discount offered if you go in to register. And I believe what you have to do is select the education industry, and it should be automatic at that point, if I understand that correctly. And if you want to know what you can expect from Tableau Conference 26, you can expect 3 invigorating days packed with learning, and fun. So over 300 sessions, over 150 hands-on training and product demos, and then everyone's favorite Iron Viz, Devs on Stage, Tableau Doctor, Data Village, Data Night Out, Boot Camp, certification opportunities, so much going on, maybe even an education meetup. So if you've never been to Tableau Conference before, it is well worth it. And if you are, if you've been to one or more like me, then you know how fabulous they are. And personally, I don't get to go this year. I'm kind of sad about it, but hopefully you get to go. And if you're still on the fence, then early bird pricing ends today. So maybe get off the fence and hop on over to San Diego. And we'll turn it over to James to talk more about IronViz.
IronViz has been a recurring topic the last couple of meetings, and finally the results are in about who are the top 10 competitors, including the top 3 who will be competing at Tableau conference. So among the top 10 is our very own Jenny with her Jane Goodall inspired visualization on the environmental cost of eating meat. Now, the QR code on this page will take you to the Tableau public version of her visualization. I recommend that you scroll down, and there's a link at the publish on that takes you to her blog post about the creation of this visualization. Now, the top 3, the field is packed with talent. So we have Ann Pregler, who is a Tableau ambassador, and she's also the current episode's guest on Data Plus Love podcast. So she's the guest this week on it. So you can learn more about her prior to the conference. Kevin Wee is a Tableau visionary, and you can also learn more about him on the Data Plus Love podcast. But you have to go back to July 2022. And finally, you have Brian Moore, who's also a Tableau visionary and was a guest with his wife on Data Plus Love podcast back in February 21. So if you want to learn more about these, you can go to the podcast, which one of the reasons I mentioned podcast is if you plan to go to Tableau conference, especially if it's your first time going, a great way to learn about some of the community members before going or listening to podcasts like Data Plus Love, and there's other ones out there. And if it wasn't mentioned previously, our own Roshni was a guest on the podcast back in December. And if you go back several years, in April of 2021, Jenny was a guest. So you can learn more about our co-host at our, we'll call them co-hosts. Co-leaders for the TUG. And now, I guess and back on just that one, you can watch if you miss it, you can use the link to go to the broadcast of the announcement of the top 10. And other things to watch is back in December they had DataFam Europe. The sessions have been posted on Salesforce Plus. One that I recommend is in the keynote, Matthew Miller talks about how he used Tableau to save his spruce tree. You can skip to the 30-minute. He starts speaking at the 30-minute mark of the keynote if you don't want to listen to the first 30 minutes of it. But definitely, I recommend Matthew Miller's speech there. And now I'll turn it on over.
The other things that you can watch, we're talking about Tableau Conference, which is in the future. We talked about DataFam Europe, which was a little bit in the past. Even more in the past is Dreamforce. So there were a few sessions around Tableau at Dreamforce, including the Tableau Keynote that featured, well, hold on. Who is that guy? He looks so familiar. Oh, wait a second. It's Chris Williams, our Meta community member. So if you have not caught the Tableau Keynote, please go check it out because Chris talks a whole lot about the community and how it made him what he is and how he has, he's been a great contributor to the community. And it is one of the reasons that Tableau is as amazing as it is because there are so many people who work together to help everyone help each other out. And it's part of the reason I love the community. But we're not here to talk about me in the community. We're here to talk about Chris Williams. So he is a community superhero. So by day, he serves as the director of analytic consulting at Concentrix, where he leads teams in developing data-driven insights and innovative solutions to global clients, and brings valuable perspectives on how organizations can leverage tools like Salesforce and specifically Tableau, of course, to drive strategic decision-making. But by night, like I mentioned, he's one of the superstars in the data fam. He's a multi-time Tableau ambassador. He's led and helped revive what feels like at least a half dozen tugs by this point. So that includes the PDX tug, the Portland tug, the Black and Tableau tug. I think the Detroit tug is on your list. I don't know what else is there. I know there's more. And he's also involved in writing the current and next generation of the data fam and all things data viz. And guys, he is downright one of the nicest people that you'll ever meet. So welcome, Chris. I will tell you, I'm a little rusty here, so I'm sorry that I'm going to blabber over some of these questions. So the way this works is that we've got a list of questions. I'm going to ask them, you're going to answer them, and at some point we will run out of time.
Okay.
So let's start. Tell us about yourself and describe your role and your team.
So first, thanks for having me. It's really an honor to be here at your higher education TUG. So it's anytime I can support the data fan and a friend, I'm all here for it. So in my role at Concentrix, Director of Analytic Consulting, I basically run a lot of the Tableau development here. So I will go out and actually go get work. I'll scope the work out, and then me and my team will execute it. So I've been doing Tableau for about 16 years now. I've been in data analytics for about 30. So it feels kind of weird saying that because it feels like it was just yesterday I was graduating from University of Virginia trying to figure out a Y2K problem. And the world was supposed to end at the year 2000, and it didn't happen, of course. So, but I love Tableau just because it's so much easier than writing some sort of dry Word document of telling you how you're doing. Give me a visualization or two or three or four to tell that visual story on how you're doing. And so it's instant gratification to be able to go ahead and take a look at and model your data properly and then tell that story so that you can get some adoption. So it's fun to be able to do that. And, just like spreading the word.
So you've mentioned 16 years using Tableau. So that puts you at version, what, like 5, 7?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
I definitely 7. Definitely 7, probably 5, but I really started kicking it into gear probably around 7.
Okay.
Let me say that.
I joined at the very tail end of 9. We literally, during my training, Tableau 10 was released. So that the fact that you've seen 5 is just mind blowing to me. So you, as a consultant, you've worked with a lot of different companies doing a lot of different things. So what type of data, though? Like, is there a common sort of thread in the data that you commonly work with?
It's the common thread. I mean, I deal with a variety of different verticals, whether it be automotive, healthcare, public sector, manufacturing. The real only common data is your discipline and how you're going to model it. So being able to take a data set that you may not know about, but you know what the model should look like if you're going to report off of it. So if I deal with something I may not have seen before, I always rely on my discipline and understanding how to break down data so I can make it reportable. That means, whether you're using Tableau Prep to go ahead and set up my data sources properly, or before that, setting up, reporting views in the database. It's just setting the table so I can tell that story. And that story can vary based on the vertical that you're dealing with. So I deal a lot with casino analytics. So first off, I'm down in, near Laguna Beach. I'm based out of Laguna Beach, California. And then I have clients that are casino clients up in Vegas. And I deal with a lot of casino analytics. So we have to be able to tell that story and be able to help all these resorts figure out who their clients are. But maybe you have a data set that you don't know. That same discipline of figuring out how to look at your data doesn't change. So that's your common denominator to figure out how to set your reporting data environment so that you can make it reportable for anything. I mean, you may not know anything about casino, you may not know anything about golf, but work is work, and you kind of have to adjust to what's being served for dinner. So I just rely on my previous experiences to be able to model the data properly. And then the KPIs will come into play as you work with subject matter experts so you can get comfortable.
Right. And there's so many parallels between what you do, even just with casino clients. Like, we talk about populations in higher ed. We talk about students and the admission cycle. We talk about, graduation and like that whole education cycle in terms of have you met your requirements and all that. On the alum side, the whole prospect cycle for fundraising, like that's a huge thing. And so just like learning about the people and how do you segment the people, how do you work with the people, like that is something that is common to a lot of what many of us probably do, regardless of what role we play in higher ed or even outside of higher ed. So that's really great. You mentioned that you use Tableau Prep. I know that you create vizzes in Tableau Desktop. So I'm going to take a little bit of leeway here with this question. What is most surprising about how you use Tableau at work, to you or to your clients?
What I try to do is you really don't want to develop a dashboard unless you're doing it for fun. You don't want to develop a dashboard for work if you don't know where you're going. So many people just rush into the tool and just, I have my data set, let me go play or let me go develop something that I think they're going to like. Sometimes that can be fine it depends how you learn, but sometimes that could be a little bit more time consuming in the sense that you want to know where you're going before you get started and really define what your destination is. And that means like, hey, what is this dashboard for? Who's going to be using it? What does it at the minimum need to have, need to display? And then at that point, if you can have those three at least to start so that you're not just wandering around in the dark room aimlessly running into walls, it'd be a lot less frustrating. And then if you're dealing with, a lot of budget where you may be put in a box on how much budget you can spend, you want to be as clear as possible before you get started so that you don't go over budget and people get cranky about that. So that's one thing that even to this day, as an experienced developer and an experienced person who scopes project, that's something that can get ignored. And you never, no matter if you're beginning or even at an expert phase, you always want to make sure you have your destination before you start developing. That just makes your anxiety level go from here to here, and then you'll actually get done, and it'll actually be an enjoyable experience doing the projects.
Right. And it's not just an enjoyable experience for you, but it's hopefully an enjoyable and delightful experience for the end users, because you are sort of building out products that are user-focused, user-centered, and helping them reach their goals, whether that is getting information or actually making decisions and taking action, which is great. So you've worked on a lot of Tableau projects. What's your favorite one that you've worked on, personal or work?
Oh, well, professionally, I've been doing a lot with Tableau Cloud and Tableau Next. So I've been doing a lot of customer intelligence type of metrics, trying to figure out how well your company's doing sales-wise. So if you're selling anything, there's certain things that you want to have. So what I've done for work is be able to take with my team, figure out what our key performance indicators might be for our sales company, and then developing those with a personal touch within the Tableau Cloud environment, because you have a lot more latitude on what you can develop in, whether it be, desktop or you're doing your web editor within the cloud environment. But it's also kind of fun playing around to a different degree within Tableau Next to be able to, go ahead and develop a similar dashboard to see the differences, because they're catering to two different audiences. In that aspect, the creativity is just a little bit different. The creativity is not so much on the business side. It's more of a, how deep can I go with my data and interact with it side. You can do the similar thing within Tableau Cloud, but the fun thing about Tableau Cloud and Tableau Classic is that I can really put my artistic hat on and say, okay, I have my KPIs. Now let's go have fun. How do I make this dashboard pop? Yes, we want to make sure that we get the bare bones and we get the message and we can tell a story. But now we want to not just tell a story, but we want to tell a story with impact and pop. And the whole thing about all of this is just the end game of being able to do prescriptive analytics, right? So we want to make sure that whatever we're showing prompts an action. The part of prompting an action will actually get you adoption on whatever you build. And adoption is how we all kind of remain to have jobs. So it's about prompting what you're going to do. If that means, hey, this is working, let's do more of it. Or, hey, this is not working, let's change this. And we are going to change this because this, and this aren't meeting the right standards. That's what we develop. So that part, being able to develop stuff for, Tableau Conference, which I was able to do last year. There's a personal dashboard I did with a good friend of mine that was a fantasy football dashboard that helped me win a league a couple of years ago. I should really upload that. I need to make it like probably more up to date. So you can stay tuned for that. I haven't been posting as much on public as I would because a lot of my stuff is so sensitive data wise, but that's one of my things to do for this year.
That's all. I know it's February, but New Year's resolution, it continues throughout the year.
Yes.
So I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit. So what is your favorite Tableau feature?
I just spoke on this actually. I love microcharts, but I really love LODs, and I'm probably one of one to ever say that.
No, you're not. I feel like we've got some LOD fans in this
Do we
in
have,
this virtual room.
do we
I
have
mean,
LOD fans in this room? I just literally just spoke on this. And it's cool because one of the things you asked me personally what I like to do, I actually teach Tableau around here and at Cal State Fullerton and UC Irvine down here in Southern California. And they were like, LODs, can you help me find a shortcut to LODs? I was like, look, there's no shortcut to LODs. You just need to learn them. But just find a situation where you can apply them and you'll never forget them. And so teaching Tableau is great because, yes, I'm teaching my students, but I learn every time I teach something to somebody because I learn how they learn. And it gives me perspective on how I can learn differently. And it makes me a better person that way. But yeah, I love LODs. I love microcharts. Um, I'm a big predictive model person, so I love the bubble, the correlation charts as well. So yeah, it's hard. You're asking me to limit myself here to a couple, and that's hard.
well, so okay, so you mentioned that you teach, and part of teaching is learning from your students. So as like what have you been most surprised about in when you are teaching in terms of what newbies are finding hard or surprising or whatever? Like what has struck you the most in terms of like is there a consistent other aspect of Tableau or an approach to data that you're seeing a lot that you weren't maybe expecting before you got into teaching?
What I try to do is make sure that you're not starting from square one. You probably know more than you think you do and don't have amnesia about things. I think a lot of people come in when they're trying to learn a new tool set or a concept that they really don't think they know a lot about it at all. And that could be further from the truth. Uh, what I try to do is and try to relate situations that they may have been in individually to an analytical situation where if you're going to say drive to Costco, right? You have taken data of when to go and when not to go based on traffic. That's an analytical, that's an analytical process. When you're learning Tableau or building a dashboard, it's the same discipline in which you would do for that. So you have your common, I just try to find common denominators so people can figure out what that clicking will be for them. And so that starts the confidence and like, okay, yeah, now I can see that. That part of it is just getting them to realize that, yeah, you may not know what SQL is, but let's step back and figure out what SQL actually does. And then when we break that wall down, then now it's easier to introduce something else. So it's just a matter of being able the coping process of being able to get them to understand that, hey, you may know more than you think you do. Don't sell yourself short. And that's really important when you're trying to learn something because a lot of people start learning something, they think it's a tall drink of water and they get hung up before they begin. That's not how it should be. And learning is much more fun than that. It's like, learn at your pace. There's no firefight here. Just figure it out. So just the openness and being able to understand that they really do know is really refreshing.
I was going to say it's not a tall drink of water. It's just a bunch of little shot glasses, and before you know it, you'll be in the tablet or in the data, and it'll be natural. So, what do you want to learn more about within the Tableau ecosystem?
I have always wanted to learn a little bit more about. Sometimes I like to learn about animation. I honestly just like understanding how situationally Tableau is used in different verticals. I'm a big use case person. I'm always a sucker for tips and tricks. So I want to learn from everybody else around me, and then if I can bring something to the table that somebody may not know, super. I mean, I want to be more comfortable, probably more comfortable with Tableau Catalog because I'm a governance person. I'd like to understand a little bit more about some of the charts I don't use a lot of. I use some heat maps. I'm not a big fan of pie charts and donut charts just because I want to know why I should be, if that makes sense. Because I've always thought, unless you have the perfect setup, pie charts are just kind of like there. It doesn't necessarily, I mean, you have pies that can be really, really tiny. And I'm just like, I don't want to look at this. But I also, so part of my, resolution, Tableau resolution is to understand how to use a pie chart better than I have. So I don't be like a wet blanket about it.
Well, I mean, I'm fully willing to be a wet blanket. Pies and donuts are for eating, especially on days like Pie Day, March 14th, coming up soon. But I get it. I get it. Sometimes, we gotta look back at what we've said no to and see, well, was that the right choice? And there's always room for learning there. So before we move on to the dashboard that you're going to share, I've got one last question for you. Is there anything else that you want to share with us?
Um, Honestly, it's just an honor. I feel like this isn't work for me because every time you do something within Tableau, you get instant gratification when you build a biz. You get to a situation where you have your data modeled, you have everything set up the way you need to in order to build something. And then you can learn about your data a little bit more than you would if you were to just be behind the scenes building a view or something like that. I always find out using switching around different views in different types of charts. Which one is going to resonate with my stakeholders? I just kind of like when I get to the point where I know what I'm building, I know what KPIs need to be on the dashboard. Then it just turns into, okay, this now turns into a canvas. And I have my, my paint out. What is going to make the most sense?
Yeah.
And how is that? And it's never the same combination. That's what makes this so much fun, is that you may have the same discipline, but the end result is never, ever the same. And because you're going to create something new. You have like, I've built probably 100 different dashboards, and they all may have the same discipline of how I started, but they look a hell of a lot different between, there maybe three of them may look similar, but for the most part, they're not the same. So that part of it is like, it's great because I'm always using different parts of my brain to get to the end part.
Yeah, so database is a mix of science, getting the data right, getting that structure in, but then a lot of art, a lot of like understanding the rules, learning or the guidelines or whatever the best practices, and then understanding like how far can you stray away from those best practices? What else can you do? What else might work better for your end users? It's all part of that. Like yeah, I love it. I love how you describe that. All right, I'm gonna pass the mic over to James because you've got a higher ed related dashboard you want to share with us.
I do. And I love this dashboard.
It is a great choice. I enjoyed going through it. So I'm interested in why did you choose? I mean, what are your favorite features of this dashboard?
So Lisa is one of my favorite people. And I was introduced to her with this dashboard. I'm a big Tom Hanks person anyway. I'm a big comedy person, but I'm a big fan of great professionals. And I had seen Forrest Gump. I've seen it a handful of times, but that life is a box of chocolate type of line. And I look at this dashboard, I was like, this is what a box of chocolate really looks like. And then I look at this and I'm just like, this is outstanding. It has everything that you need. It's very simple, but it's complex. It's got layers. So when you look at what's happening here, you have the Data Plus Movies data set, which is a great data set. Then you have all the data, the movie types that he's had in his career. And I love how Lisa uses the genres and the rollovers to highlight each of the different types. And then you can roll over each individual chocolate per se to find out what movie it is, when it was, all the information about it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's one thing I was like about is that it is so much information in such a limited space and very easy to read. Now, have you taken any inspiration from this and not used it or in your own visualization? So, is there anything from here that you have actually incorporated?
Yes, because when I look at some of the rollovers and the information that you can do, there are times in which I would take that and maybe take an information and have maybe a microchart in addition to the information that's in there that maybe go into another layer of data. I like the idea of keeping it very concise. I go from, and this is just me, I'm not saying this is gospel or anything, but what I do is that I try, when I develop dashboards, I try not to scroll both ways. Like I'd like to scroll either left to right or top to bottom, but not both. I just like how concise but informative and deep this dashboard is. So I try when I'm having an artist block, which I know all of you have, or maybe I've hit my head against a wall. I've taken a lot of walks because I can't get my art in gear. I'll come back to dashboards that I find on public and I'll be like, okay, maybe this will work, or maybe I'll try this, or maybe I'll try this kind of look. Um, and Lisa's dashboard really, I just come back to this in a way because it always spurs something for me. I love how complete it is, really. So hope that answered your question.
Oh yeah, and that gets to the next one, but I'll go and give it if you want to give kind of more information on it. Is that for others looking at this, is that what do you think that others would find interesting or informative? So, and it could actually be topic specific about, I guess, Tom Hanks in general, or about his movies, or about how it's constructed. What do you think others can really get from this?
I think what other people can do is just look at the design of your dashboard here. So when I say this is what you're going to build your foundation of what your dashboard is going to be. Lisa chose the fact that it's going to be a box of chocolates, right? So that's what was decided at that point. Now you may want to get to a situation where I did a game show dashboard and I did another one where I was doing something on Wheel of Fortune, which I haven't uploaded yet. And for each of the spots on the wheel, I followed a similar mantra that what you have here with Lisa's dashboard, where you highlight something. It was a smaller wheel and it highlighted certain seasons of how much was won or how much was something like that on each of the spaces on the big wheel. And it was, I kept trying to figure out like what could make something really pop or what can make something, different, but be informative on the surface, right? So I just try a few things to see if it'll work. And if it does work, then great. And that's where some of the animation comes into play. It keeps, push, spin the wheel and have some information come up, things like that. So it's just my mindset when I'm doing dashboards for fun as opposed to dashboards for business is somewhat night and day, because for business, I can't get away with doing a lot of animation and flashy stuff. A lot of the stakeholders don't want that. The most they really want is really conditional formatting for the KPIs when they fall above or go above or below a certain threshold. And that's really as tricky and creative as I need to get. Otherwise, they get cranky about it.
And about the topic itself, is there anything about Tom Hanks or Tom Hanks movies that you learned from this that you did not previously know? Or what's the most interesting thing you learned from this that you did not previously know?
There are some movies I didn't think he was in. I had forgotten about him. Literally, I just forgot about him. I had forgotten about, there was one like He Knows You're Alone. I was like, wait, he started with that one? That's the very first one. And I'm just like, wow, I didn't know that. And I mean, I know he's been in a lot of TV shows too, but we talk about some of the movies. He didn't really get rolling with movies as far as like movies really kicking tail until about Philadelphia. And that's when everybody really was like, oh, he can do a serious role, or oh, he's this, or League of Their Own was great. That's one of my favorite movies too. But some of his early stuff, I think a lot of people didn't realize that he might have been in. And so I had forgotten about him, and it was nice to understand. And some of the later ones, I didn't know about Pinocchio, and it was just one of those things where I was just like, really? I mean, I hadn't seen it, but I mean, I was like, that's interesting to me. So I learn pretty much from every dashboard that I see. It's how appropriate we're doing higher ed. And I look at all these dashboards, any of them on public, and I get something from it, whether it be data or data and strategy as far as like how to build a dashboard.
Well, thank you. The one first thing that I noticed about it is just that how it moved away from comedy, or not moved away from comedy, but how it became a lot less comedic focused.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing, and I guess we'll hand it back over for our presentations.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Welcome, Baron Wolf and Andrea Christelle. They are our next speakers. They're going to tell us more about the Research Analytics Summit. But first, let me tell you a little bit more about them. So Dr. Baron Wolf has experience working in institutional research, effectiveness, assessment, and strategic planning within higher education. His work has focused on the use of data analytics to make strategic business decisions and process improvements. He is a member of the International Network of Research Management Societies, which is INORMS, Research Evaluating Working Group. He is also an active researcher and has been funded by the U.S. National Science Foundation, the Institute of Museum and Library Services, and has worked on projects funded by the National Institutes of Health. Dr. Wolf is the Director of Research Analytics at the University of Kentucky and leads efforts to maintain robust research business intelligence tools, data analytics, reporting, analysis, bibliometric analysis, and assessment tools. And Dr. Andrea Christelle serves as the Research Project Manager for the REACH Network at the University of Kentucky, where she manages programs for research evaluation and analytics professionals. She leverages her background in program development, research capacity building, and ethical AI to foster interdisciplinary collaboration and data-informed decision-making. You guys, how do you have time to do all that? So thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'll go ahead and let you both start by telling a little about yourselves and describing your role and your team.
Sure. Thanks, Virginia, and thanks for everyone for having us here. We're glad to be here to talk a little bit about our work and a little bit of shameless plugs here in a couple of minutes. But as mentioned, my entire career in higher education has been in Kentucky higher education, whether it be a small private liberal arts college or the technical college system to four-year institutions. And I really got my start in data as an undergraduate student. I'm a graduate of Berea College, where I had every student gets a full tuition ride, but we have to have a work assignment. And my work assignment was in the Office of Institutional Research and Assessment, which led to my career in data analytics and data-driven decision-making within higher ed. So at the University of Kentucky, I take a little bit different slant on things. When I came to the university in 2015, I brought some of the work that we do in traditional institutional research offices to the research side of the house, so the sponsored projects office. And at a large institution like the University of Kentucky, things do get siloed and things like that. So IR and institutional effectiveness often focus their time on student success metrics, financial aid, tuition metrics, and things like that, and not so much other parts of the institution maybe. And so I said to them in the research domain, to the vice president for research, look at these amazing dashboards about students. I can provide the same thing, but about your data. And so that's what I've been doing since 2015, is helping transform that domain to really use data in a new way to drive decision-making and how they support faculty and researchers across campus to grow our research enterprise. So that's my day job. And then there's some other things that we'll talk about here in a few minutes, but I'll give Andrea. Andrea is currently driving in the mountains of Arizona, and so I think she is over the hill, so she should have connectivity. I'll let her give a quick intro as well, if she can.
Okay. Yes. Hello, everyone. I don't know if you can see me, but my name is Andrea Christelle. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. My background in higher ed is really in philosophy. That's where I got my PhD, and I worked for a program called Philosophy in the Public Interest, which is really about making philosophy, which is something that a lot of people don't know about, relevant and relatable to the general public. And I share that just because I think that that's really relevant to people working in research analytics, because often we're dealing with data and we want to share information with audiences that don't necessarily have expertise in that area, but can certainly benefit from understanding data as much as possible. And it's our job to be kind of bridge builders to share that information with constituents who will benefit from that information, but don't necessarily have expertise in that area. Before I joined Barron, I was at Diné College, which is a higher education institution located on Navajo Nation. It was the first tribally controlled institution of higher education in the U.S. And it was there that I met Barron when the REACH program was first started. REACH stands for Research Evaluation and Analytics Capacity Hub. And it was really an initiative that grew out of Barron's research, where he was trying to connect with people across higher education and research institutes to bring people together who were working in this area of data analytics. And so I was really happy to be able to join REACH. So I started out as a steering committee member. Now I'm staff working for Barron on this initiative. And I just want to say, and I know this is about me, but I'm going to talk a little bit about all of you. When I heard people talking in the beginning about all of the job openings and opportunities that there are in this space, that REACH is really the perfect place for folks to come together, because there are a lot of people working in research and data analytics in higher education, but without necessarily professional organization, which we're not quite a professional organization yet, but we are a professional network that really serves this community. So that's a little bit about me and how I came to be involved with REACH. Thank you.
Thank you. It's so fascinating to hear stories about how people get to be where they are, like the winding roads that they take to arrive here. Very few people go into this saying, oh, I want to work in institutional research. But anyway, so we're going to take turns answering some questions now. Barron, you're up next. Tell us a little bit about what types of data you work with.
Sure. So the data that I work with every day is largely finance data. So we largely use and within the research enterprise talk about, instead of 30,000 students, we're talking about $300 to $500 million worth of research grants. And so largely what we work with is data related to the sponsored projects domain. So that includes both just finances and R&D expenditures coming into the institution, but also faculty data. You might be familiar with a term called distribution of effort. So faculty members traditionally have percentages of effort for teaching, service, research, and so forth. So that's another data type that we use with HR, especially when a faculty member might have 60% DOE, distribution of effort in research, but none of it is funded. We start looking at some of those metrics to talk about productivity and things like that. The other really fun type of data that we use is one might consider it an external data source to the institution itself, but is bibliometric data. And so bibliometric data is publication data. So it's information on the outputs of research within higher education. It is data about what your researchers and faculty and students are doing, but it's publication data about citations, the number of publications. And we use that data to talk about network analysis and how we can build better teams. And one of the things that I like using bibliometric analysis is we've been able to put some of those data visualizations that we've created using that type of data into grant proposals, so that a researcher, instead of just describing how well connected they are, they can visually show the reviewers their network and why this network is appropriate to do this research. And we've received some pretty prestigious grants that the visualization did not make us get the grant, right? But we think that it has helped us put us over the curve of the scores and really was beneficial to that proposal's success. So I've really enjoyed working with that type of data.
I bet you're right too, because like Chris was saying, people would rather see a visualization than just read a dry report. Yeah, definitely. Right. So, Baron, what is your favorite data project that you've worked on?
So I think I have to go back to one of the first things that I did when I went to the University of Kentucky. I was hired in the Vice President for Research office as their core data person to answer questions for that Vice President. But what I learned quickly, even though the university was a large institution, they were somewhat in this domain in the dark ages in regards to high-tech data and so forth, and having access to reliable information. And so I quickly said, because of the power of Tableau, if I need to answer a question for you, I can actually answer that same question for every leader on campus that needs to know it when they need it, by delivering a self-service dashboard enterprise of all of our data. And so that's what I did. So it took several years to get there by replicating our existing legacy reports and converting them all. But taking reports that were in PDF form, not in numeric order, not in alpha order, not in any order whatsoever, and put them in a more structured way and layer that with user permissions within a self-service domain has really been my proudest and most favorite project. And it's evolved. We've done it was basic, then we did a design revision and everything. And so, but it is one of the things that I'm most proud of for doing at the university.
That sounds like quite a project. So, Baron, what has been your favorite part about building the data community within Reach?
Yeah, the Research Evaluation and Analytics Capacity Hub, it technically just started in July of 2025 with a grant from the National Science Foundation. It had some precursor grants that I have had, but one of the things that I enjoy the most is the energy of the community that we are building. I have individuals actually talk to me about, how are you allowed to do this? Because you're sharing best practices with people that are kind of your competitor, aren't they? Higher education is a competitive space, especially in the research enterprise. If we're all competing for a limited pot of money, we're teaching people how to use data to drive better decisions to help them get those funds. And I kind of talk about, well, we're doing it. Our missions within higher education is all the same, right? And so I've really enjoyed being able to bring people together. I am not an expert in many things. You all were talking about LODs earlier, and somewhat I wanted to put in the chat that I like them because sometimes I have to use them, but I hate them at the same time because sometimes I can't figure out how to make them work, right? Or just the fact of struggling and then realizing, oh, a simple LOD would have worked, is what made it happen, right? And so being able to share within a community that expertise has been really rewarding to me. We hope to continue it through this grant, and you'll hear more about that as we go on with the talk today.
That sounds like the same reasons I love the data fam community too. Yeah, and I think Roshi just said the same thing in the chat.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, we have one kind of fun question before we switch over to Andrea, and that is, what is your least favorite chart type?
Well, I had a planned response to this question, and I'm going to change it. I was not going to say that pie charts are my least favorite, but because it came up, I'm going to say that it is my least favorite, and it's my least. So I teach as well at the University of Kentucky. I teach in the College of Business and Economics, and I teach my students from the beginning, do not ever do a pie chart in your data visualizations. And one of the reasons why, the main reason, is that a pie chart is not statistically sound based on the data that it's trying to represent. So the width of the sliver doesn't necessarily talk about the area of the graph and so forth. And so my least favorite chart type would be a pie chart. A donut chart you can get away with, especially if you put some great things in the middle of it. But a pie chart, again, keep that for dessert.
Yes, Chris, you started a bit of a landslide about pie charts, but that's all right. That's a great answer. All right, now we're going to switch over to Andrea. If she's still here. Is she still here? Yes, it looks like she did. Great. So Andrea, what is one thing that you wish you could go back and tell yourself when you were just starting out in the higher ed data industry?
I mean, for me, that really hasn't been too long ago. And so I think, from the data perspective, and I think what I would say to people is don't be afraid to try something new, and don't be afraid to build up a new skill set. So there was one point when I was just really curious about technology, and I studied philosophy originally. And at one point I thought, would I still do this? Or if I could go back and do anything, would I choose this again? And the answer to that is partially yes, because I love philosophy, but I was also really interested in technology, and the role that technology has played in our lives has shifted dramatically in the course of my lifetime. And I thought, well, I can, learn about that. And I learned how to script in Python, and I started spending more time with data analytics. When I was at Diné College, I was at a very small institution. And so, depending on the institution where you are, at the University of Kentucky in R1, at larger institutions, you have several people devoted to this work. But at smaller institutions, oftentimes you're wearing multiple hats. And so you have to do, any sort of analytics along with, the other things that you're doing. But I would just say that for people just starting out, wherever you're starting at any point, don't be afraid to pick up new interests, to try something new, and to develop a new skill set.
I actually think philosophy would prepare you really well for working in the data world.
Yes, especially if you taught logic, right? That's a good skill set, good baseline skill set.
Definitely. Is there anything you'd like to share with us about Reach before we start talking about the Analytics Summit?
Well, Baron, I would just say that Reach is still a very young initiative. It's a growing network of data and research evaluation professionals. And so we hope that the folks here will become engaged if you're not engaged already. And we're always interested in feedback, like what people want from the network. I mean, we're going to talk primarily about our annual in-person summit today, which is certainly our signature event. But we also offer webinars, which focus on technical topics that are completely free and open to everyone. We also have a program called Casual Fridays, which focuses on human-centered skills, because many of the people in the Reach network said, I understand data and analysis very well, but how can I get, other stakeholders to listen to me, or decision makers? And so I'm really interested in soft skill development. So we offer that as well. We also have RAMP, the Research Analytics Mentor Program. So all of these things have come about because of feedback of people that are engaged in the network. So we would like to hear from you. And if there's something that you really think that we could provide that would be valuable, we're interested in hearing that and doing what we can to respond.
And I do want to make one additional comment real quick is if you go to the website and you read about it and you say, oh, this is for research administrators or research services, it's for everyone, because what we're finding is that some institutions fund, like the University of Kentucky, fund an office like mine that is basically an IR, institutional research, institutional effectiveness office for the research enterprise. But other institutions, their IR offices have people that are focusing on this work as well, or they should be or could be. And so I think that that's really key. We have people doing many of our presentations at the summit that are institutional research professionals and so forth. And we also have librarians in our network. So the bibliometric side of things, we are starting to engage and collaborate more with the data that librarians might traditionally use and how can we leverage that in different ways. So it is meant to be a transdisciplinary community of practitioners. And I think that is part of the strength that we're trying to build.
It's also a very welcoming group of people.
Yeah, very welcoming. We try to be. In fact, full disclosure, Virginia is on our community advisory board, and so we've welcomed her into the community as well.
So let's talk some more about the 2026 Research Analytics Summit. So there's a QR code here where you can scan and go to the page. On the page, you can navigate to the agenda, learn about the venue, the lodging options, and of course, register for the summit. And you can also stay involved with Reach year round. As Andrea mentioned, they have Casual Fridays, and that's hosted on the Cassini. I think I'm saying that right. I've been to a couple of them so far. They're really very interesting and just kind of like a lunch and learn setting. These typically focus on human-centered skills, and then they also occasionally offer webinars that focus on more technical topics. So, Andrea, tell us a little bit more about the conferences coming up in April in Newport, Rhode Island, and what types of sessions we're going to see, what kind of topics we're going to hear about. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Sure. So the third annual Research Analytics Summit will be in Newport, Rhode Island. We're very excited to go to this beautiful location. For the first 2 years of the summit, we were in Albuquerque, which was amazing. But we're very excited to be in Newport this year. The summit lasts 3 days. So we'll have workshops that are on Sunday, both in the morning and the afternoon, and then we'll have concurrent sessions on Monday and Tuesday. There is a workshop that's devoted specifically to Tableau, as well as some Tableau concurrent sessions. So we hope that those would be of interest to people here. And in addition to research analytics topics, I will say that we're the research evaluation and analytics capacity hub. And so there will be sessions that focus on research evaluation as well. And I would invite the folks here to really think about the role that their work plays in evaluation. One of the things that is so great about working with Baron, I mean, obviously he's a data guru, right? And he knows all about data, but he's also working in evaluation, and he will tell you very clearly what data can't do, as well as what it can do. And I think that that's very important for people to think through, and important for professionals to think about not only producing their work, but how their work is used, and to really develop expertise in advising people on how and when it's responsible to use the outputs. So there will be sessions that focus on that as well.
Speaking of sessions, Baron, do you want to tell us what sessions you think might be of the most interest to people in institutional research and effectiveness roles?
Yeah, sure. So as Andrea mentioned, we do have a workshop. It's a 3-hour workshop on Tableau Dashboards Made Easy. That workshop is actually being presented by some of our colleagues. So we have 2 individuals from Rutgers University, an individual from Emory University, and then 2 individuals from Arizona State University that have come together to collaborate on this Tableau themed workshop. So I think that and there are still spots open for that. So it's only $35. So a quick, we try to be not only welcoming, but affordable. So please do consider that. The other sessions, concurrent, we have things related to bridging data silos in academia using Smartsheets, Tableau, and Power BI as catalysts for transparent research analytics. And again, when we say research analytics, it could be applied to any data analytics within higher education. The other session is how to automate your data dictionary using Microsoft SQL Server built in functionality to add metadata, describing columns, and how to surface that information in Tableau at the same time. So I think going back to one of the prior questions about what would you do if you started over, one of the things that I would have done is learn how to document my work as I'm doing it. I force my analysts to do that now, and I'm like, why aren't you documenting the changes and what you're doing? Because we won't remember 2 weeks from now, but I don't do a good job of myself of that. So I think that session there and the use of data dictionaries and data literacy is really important. Because we are transdisciplinary and we have some librarians coming and talking about evaluation, we have some faculty researchers coming, there really is a wealth of information that are geared towards institutional research, institutional effectiveness. There won't be sessions so much about academic program reviews and things like that, or student learning outcomes. It's all largely focused in the research enterprise, but things that are very much cross over into other things that we do at the institution.
It sounds like some really great sessions. And like we mentioned before, the agenda is up on the webpage. You can go and do a deep dive and see everything that's available, and then register and go to the conference. And all right, so I'm going to let Andrea wrap us up by just telling us, who do you think would benefit from joining REACH, and is joining free?
So right now, we don't really have a membership per se. We refer to the REACH network, and we have a network of individuals that are interested in research evaluation, research analytics, and AI applications in both of those areas. And so anyone can join our listserv. And in just a moment, I'll put the sign up for the listserv in the chat. So we would definitely encourage everyone to do that. It's free. It gives you a good sense of what the community is interested in. And it's not overwhelming. I mean, don't worry about signing up. You won't be spammed to death, but they're just like issues of interest and occasional posts. Anyone is welcome to join the Cassini programs, and I shared those in the chat already. Those are free and everyone's invited to come. So yes, you can absolutely connect with the network at no cost. I will say too, if you're coming to the conference, we were in Albuquerque, now we're going to the East Coast so we can be more accessible. Baron mentioned that the workshop for Tableau is just $35. And if you wanted to just learn a little bit more, but maybe not come to the full conference, people are able to register for just that $35 workshop and come to that. So that's a great way to get involved as well. And then the full conference is a $399 registration fee, which again, like Baron said, we really try to keep it affordable. So there are plenty of ways to engage that are free or low cost.
That's so fantastic. Thank you all so very much for being here with us today and telling us about REACH and the Research Analytics Summit. It was great having you both.
Thanks for having us.
If anyone else is interested in being a META community member in the future, please reach out to one of the HETUG co-leads. We are always looking for volunteers. And with that, I'll turn it over to Sam to introduce our next speaker.
So our next speaker is Bekor Baruch, who will be
Wait.
Oh.
Sorry. So we are kind of running short on time. Last minute decision, sorry. So we are going to actually invite Becker back at a future HETUG meeting to give the full presentation so that he's not rushed through everything. But that does mean that we'll have a little bit more time for breakout rooms and what's next, if folks are open to that. Maybe, possibly. Yeah? Okay. I'm going to take silence as yes. Um, yeah, apologies. Ginny and I are a chatty bunch. So we want to tell you what's next. Becker will be back, not at our March meeting, but maybe at April or May. So we want to know what you thought of today's meeting. We do have a feedback form that I'm putting in the chat right now. Let us know what worked. Let us know what you want to see more of or less of. We're open to anything. We also want you to register for the March HETUG, which is on March 32nd. And you're telling me, wait, March 32nd isn't a thing. And that's true. It's not a thing. It's actually going to be on April 1st. We just couldn't find a good time that worked during the month of March. So it's going to be March 32nd. And because April 1st is, what is that thing called? All right, April Fools. We're going to have a little bit of fun with it. So first we'll have Ginny and Sam talking about some personal data that they play with about chickens and eggs and how they visualized, both collected some data and visualized it. So we're not going to be meeting a community member. We're instead going to meet some community chickens or eggs. We've got some tips and tricks around map layers for non-map charts because, well, usually you'd think of map layers for maps, right? But hey, Tableau has options that let you use them for things that are not maps. And that's going to be from Michael McCusker, who is one of the San Diego TUG co-leads. And because, we mentioned Tableau Conference a little while ago, Tableau Conference is in San Diego. And every time it's in San Diego, this is year 3, I think, the San Diego TUG has thrown a great sort of pre-party, Data Plus Tacos. And so Michael may leave a little hint here or there about what's happening with Data Plus Tacos this year. And finally, an oldie but a goodie, we're bringing back Andrew Drinkwater. That's right, Professor Drinkwater, formerly HETUG co-lead, now teaching at UBC in Vancouver, and co-founder of Plaid Analytics. He's going to talk a little bit about data lineage. There was a chat in the Higher Ed Tableau Slack a few weeks ago, around how can we sort of track data lineage, add some data dictionary catalog information, is if you don't have Tableau data management. So Andrew's going to talk a little bit about some open source options that can help you get not just what's in Tableau, but also what it comes from. So the whole database layer and any transformations that happen there into sort of a neat little package tool that shows all of your data lineage. And finally, if you want to present at HETUG, again, we do have openings in April, May, June, and in the future, we will have sessions scheduled for the rest of the calendar year where, guess what, we're going to be looking for some speakers. So let us know, fill out the presenter interest form. I did say, we're not having a March meeting, but I kind of lied. Right, Sam?
Yes. So in the month of March, we are not leaving you hanging, but we are going to go on spring break with the Tableau Public TUG, the California Community Colleges TUG, the K-12 TUG, and the University Teaching and Learning TUG. So a ginormous education-packed Tableau user group meeting in March for spring break. The plane takes off March 19th from 12 to 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time or 9 to 10:30 a.m. Pacific. And we hope to see you on the Education Biz Beach. So yeah. And we'll have everybody who's speaking there is related to education or works in education. So it's going to be a very, very exciting meeting. Yes. Some conferences coming up. We have the Research Analytics Summit, which was just talked about. And then the Tableau Conference, and then the Higher Education Data World Conference in Texas. So a lot of upcoming within just the next few months. They're all coming up relatively close to each other. So if you feel like back-to-back conferences, you can go to all of them. And then, for the Tableau conference, I think we mentioned it earlier, but the early bird pricing does end today. So make sure you take advantage of that while you can.
Well, we'd like to thank Chris, Baron, and Andrea for coming and speaking at our TUG today. And we'd like to thank Becker for agreeing to come back and present his topic at a future date. And we thank all of you for taking some time to attend our February meeting. And we invite you to join the HETUG Slack community And also join the HETUG at Tableau's user group site, where you can RSVP for all our future events, including the spring break with the EduTug.